This video on FPL TV is very proudly sponsored by OneFootball. With a rating of 4.8 out of 5 from now over 100,000 reviews on the App Store, OneFootball truly is the biggest and best app for football news, scores and stats from hundreds of leagues all over the world. As for FPL, you can choose to follow every team in the Premier League on OneFootball and then get live updates from all the goals and assists every game week. Download it now completely free using the link in the description box below. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking to this weekend's Gameweek 13 team selection, let's see how the side performed during Gameweek 12. In the previous Gameweek, Gameweek 11, I said it was an almost perfect start in the early kickoff. And this time out in Gameweek 12, it really was the perfect start, with Rudiger delivering a delightful 14-point haul, and my new signing Reece James also providing double digits, made even more satisfying with the fact I sold Christensen for James, who was benched in that fixture. 26 points from two defenders in the opening fixture of a game week was absolute dreamland stuff, so right from the off it was looking like a very good game week. In my last video, I talked about weighing up whether or not to bench Rudiger for this one in favour of starting Saka against Liverpool, and although I was very happy to get that decision correct, in the end it didn't really matter, with Rafinha missing the game week through illness anyway, and then Saka coming off my bench automatically for a 2-pointer. Elsewhere in defence, Cancelo continued his superb run of form with a quite exquisite pass for Raheem Sterling, and that made it 3 clean sheets and 3 attacking returns from this premium defensive trio last week. Lovely stuff. And to top things off, even Jose Sarr kept a clean sheet in Game Week 12 in that very tough fixture against West Ham, his first returns for me since the wildcard 6 game weeks ago. A very pleasant surprise. Not only was it pleasing to see him keep that clean sheet and get bonus points, but the fact that the heavily owned Antonio blanked in that fixture made it all the more sweeter. Raul Jimenez also netted the winner in that game, so an ideal return from my 2 Wolves players last week, and they'll both be staying put for now with Norwich and then Burnley in their next 2 games. Much to my delight, Game Week 12 also saw Ivan Toney register his first point since buying him 5 game weeks ago, with a very well taken goal against former club Newcastle. With a bit of a point to prove, I had a feeling he may break his duck in that fixture, and although 6 points was nothing to write home about, who knows, perhaps he can go on a run of form now. Heading into the final fixture of the game week, sitting already on 79 points and a sizable green arrow, my team had built the perfect platform for both Son and Kane to really shoot me up the rankings, especially as that pair are 2 of my biggest differentials. Unfortunately though, despite Spurs scoring twice, there was no involvement from Kane or Son, who both blanked once again. Extremely frustrating, but of course a bit easier to swallow this time considering how well the rest of my team did. At least I opted not to hand the armband to either of them though, with the ever-consistent Mo Salah scoring once again. So for Game Week 12, my team scored a very pleasing 83 points, a score I have to say I was very delighted with. 83 provided a very nice rank rise of around 115,000 places last week, taking me to 214k. Still, not a rank I'd consider respectable, but it's still a huge move in the right direction at least. Last week, I said how the outcome of my game week would rely heavily on the shoulders of the Son and Kane double up, but in the end, I couldn't have been more wrong, because despite both of those letting me down once again, the team was still able to do the business and cut my rank by around 30%. Of course, there's always going to be some negatives, and it was once again Alexander-Arnold that did spoil the party somewhat, because with him producing yet another superb 15-pointer display, that of course made my green arrow a lot smaller than what it could have been, and as per usual, going without him always seems to be an uphill battle. In the 2 game weeks since opting to buy Kane instead of Alexander-Arnold, that's been a 23-point swing, not to mention I would have saved a lot of money in the process. So all I can hope now is that Kane can come good in the next few kind fixtures, and hopefully pull some points back from that deficit. Let's move on to Game Week 13 now, and see how my team currently lines up, as well as talking about some potential transfer plans. Also, if you do enjoy the content here at FPL TV, then please consider leaving a like and most importantly getting subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when the latest FPL TV content goes live. There's just one small change to my starting 11 this week, with Livramento away to Liverpool reverting back to the bench, and therefore Saka coming back into the starting 11 with a nice home fixture against Newcastle. Saka's place in my squad is very much on thin ice, so I'm certainly hoping for some returns here, with his opponents having conceded 7 goals in just their last 3 games. Looking at the current lineup for Gameweek 13, with no transfers made, I do think it looks solid and shapes up quite nicely for this weekend's fixtures. Therefore, I feel it's in a good position to potentially save the free transfer this week, and that's what I'm leaning towards doing. This is mainly, however, down to not having any money left in the bank though. Therefore, with one transfer, I can only make downgrades rather than upgrades, and this means that transfer targets such as Diogo Jota, for example, just aren't feasible. My transfer activity will also be determined on the fitness update of Rafinha, with Conor Gallagher a nice replacement should he be ruled out. The other move I was keen on making was Rudiger up to Ben Chilwell, though this too wasn't possible either with no budget left. However, with Ben Chilwell now getting injured in the Champions League on Tuesday, that does have me considering a straight swap of Rudiger to Marcos Alonso instead, which is a move I can afford. That transfer would of course depend on the severity of Chilwell's injury though, so I'll need to hear more from Thomas Tuchel first before giving that transfer some serious consideration. Despite all these considerations, of course, as mentioned many times over the last few game weeks, my team is still missing Alexander-Arnold, and he remains my very top transfer priority. But having invested now in Harry Kane, and also having zero money left in the bank, there's simply no easy route to getting him back. And that's why I've been so frustrated at myself for buying Kane in the first place. It's not so much that I don't have Trent, it's more that I've made any route to getting him back a lot more difficult. Essentially, I've made the rookie mistake of leaving myself very unflexible, and for that reason, I may have to wait a few more game weeks now before buying Trent back. There are ways of doing it this week, but every route doesn't feel as clean as I'd like it to be. For example, selling either Kane, Son or Jimenez would make the move possible, but considering their fixtures this week, I simply can't pull the trigger, especially for a hit. Rafinha or Tony could go, and by transferring in a budget forward or midfielder at 4.4 million, that does provide just enough cash to upgrade Rudiger to Trent. But still, that's losing two good players for a -4 hit, and in that case I'd also be forced to playing Livramento away to Liverpool this week. So again, as much as I'd like to bring him back in, it just doesn't seem feasible. I also considered moves like Saka to a budget midfielder or Jimenez down to his teammate Hwang, but neither of those moves free up the cash required. The most realistic route for me, I think, is unfortunately to wait 2 or 3 more game weeks, give Raul Jimenez, Kane and Son their nice remaining fixtures, and then downgrading one of them to bring Trent back in game weeks 15 or 16. For now, that looks to be the cleanest route for me. I've just got to hope that Trent doesn't go too nuclear in the upcoming games. For the captaincy in Game Week 13, once again, the Tottenham duo haven't shown enough to warrant the armband. Granted, they do face Burnley this week, no doubt a nice fixture, and notably Burnley will be without Tarkowski and Westwood, who are both suspended, so that can only boost the prospects of Kane and Son finally finding some form again. However, as was the case last week, I think just owning them is differential enough, and as boring as it may seem, I don't see any justification in my squad to deviate from Mo Salah this week, facing Southampton at home. Raul Jimenez against Norwich could be a very good option too, but he's not typically an explosive player that produces more than one return, so the armband stays with the informed Mo. So that's my team and all my transfer considerations heading into Game Week 13. There are plenty of midweek European games still to get through first though, as well as waiting on an update regarding Rafinha's illness. So although I was leaning towards holding the transfer this week, that will depend on if there's any unexpected injuries, and if hypothetically Rafinha is ruled out, well that may give me enough justification to get Alexander-Arnold back, so let's see. As usual, I'll post the final team and transfers over on Twitter shortly before the game week deadline. Good luck to you all for the upcoming game week, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.